That's coming up. Shifting gears, Jim Tucker, who is really the icon, the granddaddy of exposing the Bilderberg Group in the last 33, 34 years. He's gone from being laughed at, being the mainstream media saying it doesn't exist, to now the global press admitting that there is a global government, and the Bilderberg Group is one of the key components of this unelected global corporate system. And he did go to Spain, to a suburb of Barcelona in Catalonia, and Friday had incredible intel for us. And so we're going to find out what new info he got Saturday and Sunday and Monday before he left in the aftermath of Bilderberg. It ended, of course, on Sunday officially, but really ends on Monday. And his take on that, and also Mark Anderson, who's the deputy editor of American Free Press, AmericanFreePress.net. So both men join us now. We're going to debrief them in hindsight and get any new intel that's also coming out in this week's issue of American Free Press. Jim Tucker, thank you for coming on, sir.
My pleasure as usual.
Okay, if you can recap just any other caveats to the majority of Bilderberg Group members for the first time greenlighting an attack on Iran, any failures they've had, any victories they've had, anything else on the agenda, sir?
Oh, yes. What's really delightful this year is they were so depressed. They were depressed as they arrived morning that things are so bad. Quote, they always find out and we get in trouble at home, said one. So they, even as they arrived in their motorcades and helicopters, they felt depressed already, and as they proceeded, they became more depressed. So depressed, as Mark Anderson found out, that instead of leaving on Monday morning, as they always have this half a century, they've been doing this, more than half a century, they'd always leave with have a farewell breakfast in the morning, a farewell speech, and all the handshaking, and then they would leave. This time, they all left on Sunday night. They were so depressed. And that's just wonderful. But they still have their evil agenda. Of course, they are very disappointed over the setback in their many setbacks in their efforts toward a world government. But as you said, Bilderberg remains committed to a U.S. attack on Iran on Israel's behalf. But they were also very embarrassed by the cruel and clumsy attack on a flotilla bringing food and medicine to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, which backfired so badly. We have a separate story on that altogether, but it does relate to Bilderberg in the sense that the world outrage, including from many Jews, about the attack that killed innocent people bringing food and medicine to Palestine, just left Bilderberg gasping. But there is a division. Most Americans in Bilderberg, as it was with the Trilateral Commission, want to go to war, want Americans to go to war, spill the lifeblood of our young men and the heart's blood of our women, and billions of dollars, billions with a B, in fighting such a war, while many of the Europeans are opposed to it. And there's some debate over that. Yet the majority of Bilderberg does favor the U.S. attack on Iran.
Can you flesh that out from your sources? Any other specifics? When you say the majority favors it, from my research, this is the first time that they have agreed. Correct me if I'm wrong. And does that mean there will be an attack, or from your experience, what does that signify?
It just signifies doubt about the whole thing. We did report that an advanced story on the invasion of Iran from one of the earlier meetings, where they were similarly divided. Some in Europe say no, while most Americans and most Europeans say yes to war. They had this kind of dialogue going on, according to sources inside the Bilderberg meeting. Quote, Iran is building nuclear weapons, which pose a threat not only to Israel, but also to all of Europe and potentially to the United States, said an American. We're not sure, quote, we're not sure of that, the European countered, and you have a lot more dead boys than we do. Israel may have to conduct, another says, that Israel may have to conduct a preemptive strike to protect itself from the nuclear run, said an American, believed by the inside source to be Keith Alexander, director of the National Security Agency, but not positively identified. The, quote, the term preemptive strike was invented by Israel as the synonym for waging aggressive war in 1968, the European countered. Israel bombed Egypt in a surprise attack, wiping out their Egyptian Air Force on the ground. Israel was under no threat at all, said the European. The American walked away, shaking his head with a "where have I failed" look. So they're much divided, but the tilt is toward war, and it's more likely that we go to war than less likely.
Was there any time frame? You were able, of course, a full year plus before the invasion of 2003 of Iraq, you were able to point out that when the Washington Post said that, oh, yes, the war is on for this spring, 2002, you said, no, they're planning to launch it in the spring of next year, 2003. And, of course, you knew that Donald Graham, the publisher, was at that Bilderberg Group meeting and was knowingly lying to the public. And so you were able to get that specific intel a full year before and publish it in American Free Press, just one of scores of documented instances where we know Bilderberg is steering the planet. Jim Tucker, were you able to get any time frame from your sources?
They're hoping to do it in this year of 2010. Perhaps in the fall. They're hoping for that. Now, you're correct about the time frame of the earlier invasion, because it shows that how dedicated they are. I mean, little Jimmy Lee Hoagland was there too, as usual, holding Donald Graham's hand, and he's called associate editor, but he deliberately let his own staff go ahead and say the war will be this spring or early fall at the latest, when he knew that they were wrong. He could have said, no, don't say that anymore, don't ask me how I know, but he wouldn't even go that far because he's so dedicated to keeping his promise of absolute secrecy to Bilderberg, and he calls himself a journalist. He's half right, he's a journalistic whore.
What do you make of David Frum, of course, who came up with the term axis of evil, and who is routinely demonizing Rand Paul and myself in the National Post 2 days ago, just saying, yeah, they're former Nazis at Bilderberg, and yeah, they're globalists, but we're not setting up a world government. It's a conspiracy theory. I guess he's breaking Bilderberg rules.
Well, I said so many times, I do not advocate a conspiracy theory. Recognize the conspiracy fact. And there's no way with Webster's dictionary can Bilderberg be described as anything else but a conspiracy.
Did you see our report from prisonplanet.com? I know you were probably on a plane when it was published 2 days ago, but the former head of NATO gave a national interview in Holland, and it was also broadcast into other areas of Europe, and admitted he was the head of NATO in 94 and 95, and he said, yes, we go there, and the globalists set policy, the private corporations tell us what to do, and then we go out and implement it, and that dovetails with the SPP documents Judicial Watch got in 2007, that they sued to get from the Banff Canada North American Union meeting, where it was the private corporations, the Fortune 60 or so, who set the agenda, and then the heads of state and the heads of the State Departments of Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. then go and implement it. I mean, we know how this works.
Yes, they follow orders.